Hi, I'm Parker Miley.
I'm Tim Benjamin.
And today, well, this is the Rage Podcast, first of all.
Yes.
And today
Parker's
we're
so excited he can't wait. It's his favorite topic we've never done.
Yes, I know. It is my favorite topic. Traditions.
Please don't log off.
Yeah,
Stay
hold
with
on,
us.
hold on.
Yeah,
Yeah. Something that Jesus calls out traditions very clearly in Scripture, and I'm sure we've heard of this sometime. I'm sure you've heard a sermon or a message or something based upon when Jesus calls out, what are the meaning of traditions? Why are they here? What good and purpose
Well, he
do they
calls the
serve?
Pharisees who love their traditions, the whitewashed tombs and stuff. He has some bad stuff to say about traditions.
What is so? I guess the question is there any good behind traditions? Is there any good behind some of the things that they're just kind of natural? And again, in Christianity, we have tons of traditions.
Tons of them.
That you won't find in here.
In fact, we're filming this episode on All Saints Day. So you talk about tradition, this is probably the best day we could talk about that.
Yeah, that is true.
Because we are built, the great cloud of witnesses, like the book of Hebrews tells us. Those are all about traditions, and we do things to remember. We're about to enter the holiday season with the Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's probably the most traditional time of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And
look at how Christians celebrate Christmas, and tell me a lot of that is not traditions. Okay.
Yeah, guys, we bring a dead tree and put it in our living room and decorate it. That's not
Advent
tradition.
candles. Advent candles.
Advent candles. That's right. Yeah.
Purple, and you got to have one pink.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, what is?
Yeah. If we were going to be modern, they would be Advent LED lights or something.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, we bring in legit candles.
Yeah.
But
because those traditions are important, though. Because. I know I'm a lot older than Parker is, and I can remember when I was growing up, before we even knew what LED lights were, lighting candles, and my family would get up and say the thing, and everybody's got a story about when they were a kid and the Christmas pageant. And if you guys are really good, maybe I'll tell mine, because I have a pretty good one. And just all these things. These things are important because they build community, they build memories. When I get together with my family, we laugh about them. We feel very connected because it's wonderful. And yet, I think if you look at the culture, tradition is not popular. Even the word is not popular.
And now, I was out for a lot of the last week at National Convention, and the reason why I came up with
tell them what that is.
National FFA Convention it takes place in Indianapolis. It is every FFA member around the world has the opportunity to come and be awarded and see the great achievements that we have accomplished.
So that's just Parker Miley representing. Go ahead.
And so that's what that was, and So I went there and everything, and I heard one of the speakers, one of the national officers, gave a speech. They all give retiring addresses, and hers was talking about the importance of some traditions. How when we live in a culture that throws out kind of traditions, and we're not really paying attention to how important some of them are, or if there's any meaning to them. And she gives the example of she's traveling down the highway, and she's got 25 head of cattle in a trailer behind her, and they're going to a show. And so now the trailer's packed full to the brim with, feed and everything else that they're going to need for the show. And to pack the trailer so tightly and everything, she was the one who packed it. She moved the spare tire out. She took the spare tire out. And of course, on that journey that they're traveling down the highway, one of the tires popped. And so when they get out there and they open up the door and they realize, we put in all this stuff in here that we had, and we moved the tire out. And so then the whole part of her message was, ask why the tire is there before you move it. And I think we can do that in a lot of situations, but one of them applies greatly to the fact of a lot of traditions and things that we actually got to think about why they're there before we just say, they're pointless.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that frightens me, and I think that's a very good example, is thinking about that. All the things in this world that we are giving up, I don't know that we ever asked the question that Parker just challenged us with, is we need to know why they're there. I mean, again, and another example of this is you don't want to move the fence till you know why the fence is there, because you don't want the bull to come out and explain it to you. So you got to know why these things are there before you start moving. Again, I'm not saying tradition for tradition's sake is always good. Clearly it's not. But to be able to throw things away and not understand their purpose first is reckless, I think.
And also, when we talk about how Jesus was calling out certain traditions, some of those were actually very harmful. Okay, and in retrospect, when we're going to classify traditions, okay, there could be a group of people out there who have a tradition to do very harmful things.
Yes.
Okay, that's obviously not a good thing. But some of the things and it's definitely in American culture. Okay, we have a lot of traditions that are just being completely pushed into the sea because people aren't realizing maybe why are they there.
Yeah, and some of those seem pretty minor, and some of them are. And I don't want to get into this whole debate, but a couple of years ago, and it may still be a thing because I haven't heard of it in a couple of years, but the difference between saying Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, again, that's kind of an irrelevant thing, and it really is. But some people get really bent out of shape about that, and I think it's because that was a tradition that we're giving up. Doesn't matter, no, but that's really meaningful to some people, and we don't want to be throwing that stuff out until we at least have an understanding what it is. I've always said, when people are like, well, what about if somebody disagrees with your sermon or gets upset, which happens a lot, but the first thing I say is, well, at least they were listening, but the second thing I say is, it's always okay to disagree with me so long as you know why. You don't want to disagree just to be disagreeable, but you need to know why it was there. Same with a tradition. It's okay to disagree with it as long as you understand why it was there in the first place. And it's got to be relevant, and those things can be updated and made meaningful. Of course, I'm all for all those things. But again, as Parker was saying, to throw some of these things out without any true respect or understanding of how they got there can be a very dangerous thing because it leaves you with nothing to build on.
Last episode that we filmed, we talked about what we mentioned a little bit about how COVID kind of messed up everything.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking.
Everyone talking, getting angry and everything, and it's all kind of speed on because COVID took away a lot of traditions.
Yeah, it did.
COVID took away a lot of traditions.
Yeah. I mean, anybody you talk to would tell you Christmas 2020 was the weirdest Christmas they ever had. Everyone says that.
And since a lot of traditions have been broken, once a tradition is broken, it's not a tradition anymore. Okay,
True.
Or it's very hard to ever recover from that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use an example just because I don't know, it's what's in my head right now, but Tim, when you were growing up, or at least like even when I was growing up in St. Mary's, and I was a kid, I remember, and I would be able to see people walking to church down there. They were, they were just every Sunday morning. And all our churches in St. Mary's are close together. They're in the heart of town. Everything you can walk to majority of our churches right here, depending on where you live again. But yes, and I remember just seeing people casually walk to church. It was nothing, but the fact that I saw all these families just leaving their houses and walking.
It was a great statement.
Walking. Yeah. It was a statement and everything else, but it was like a tradition. We didn't we didn't pack in the car and everything else, but it was the matter of it was a tradition in the springtime, summertime, you walk to church. And it was just something that was crazy to me. And that also goes into the aspect of when Tim was a kid, when I was a kid, I mean, again, I'm still a kid, but whatnot. There was a lot of Christians or people who attended church who were never Christians, okay? And that still happens today. And but notice once COVID happened, and the tradition of just attending a service or a community gathering weekly on a weekly basis, doesn't matter when it was, doesn't matter what it was, it could not be church. But we had this concept of always going to these things on a weekly basis. It was a tempo. It set a tempo for the week.
Yeah, and that's been thrown off.
And that's all been thrown off. And that tradition has been broken. The tradition of going to church on Sunday or going to this or family supper on Wednesday night or something. I don't know what it is.
And it was under threat before COVID, and COVID was kind of the final shot.
It killed it. Yeah, it killed it.
Yeah.
But so now, I mean, the church has the tradition that families and people had of going to church on Sunday morning was broke by COVID, and now we live in a world where everything's, I mean, I don't want to say everything's going chaotic because no one's going to church on Sunday mornings.
But it's certainly not helping.
It's certainly not helping because it's set a tempo and a simple sway of life.
It made you realize you had a responsibility to your community and to God and to yourself and to your family to be there. And that's been broken off. And I want to be clear. I've been listening to us talk, and Parker and I don't usually plan out these conversations. We kind of have some preliminary talk. But one thing I want to tell you the difference between, because I think this is where we get confused, is the difference between tradition and nostalgia. They're not the same thing, okay? So let me just say a word about that. Nostalgia is love of the past to an almost worshipful level. I can remember when I was Parker's age and I was an associate at a church down in Cincinnati, the senior pastor had a saying he'd always like to say, is he said, 1957 is gone. And the reason he kept saying that is because if we woke up tomorrow morning and it was 1957, the church was perfectly suited to serve the needs then. That's not where we are in 2021. And we all sit around and lament and wish, gosh, I wish we could go back to pick your day. That's never going to happen. But those are not traditions we're talking about. Traditions are the pieces of the past that still inform the future, still empower the future. Still connect us to what's
Traditions can change.
Yeah.
The tradition of going to church on Sunday morning. COVID, another example.
Yeah.
We started watching church Sunday morning on TV in our pajamas, okay?
Yeah.
So our tradition changed, but it was still kind of a concept that was there that we were going to do something on a Sunday morning.
And we weren't doing that just because, yes, there was a responsibility aspect to it, but we were doing that because the experience was meaningful, not just because we were wishing things were like they used to be, even though some of us were doing that. But that wasn't the whole point. Tradition is different from thinking the past was perfect, because normally you forget the bad parts. So the past wasn't perfect, but tradition is what helped us feel connected to our lives today, helped us feel grounded in our lives today. There's a lot of confusing things going on in the world. I mean, I don't know that I even need to explain that, but a lot of things that cause us to have questions, and we feel kind of disjointed. And going back to our boy John Wesley, he talked about tradition in very glowing terms. And it was one of the ways that he decided, the direction that he and his own life should go, and the people who are part of the Methodist movement, the way they should go. Tradition was a part of that, because tradition is what grounds us to something meaningful. It helps us avoid, hey, I feel this, so let's do this, which is almost 100% of the time not a good thing. So that's what tradition does, is it grounds us to something, helps us to have a basis and a foundation under us, but it doesn't make us say, we're going to take everything that we got today and turn it around so it faces the past. That's nostalgia, and that's not good. But tradition is more of a grounding that helps us stay rooted in what's important and rooted in the past, but not so tied to it that we won't allow ourselves to grow forward. It's kind of like a tree. A tree has both roots, and branches. The roots are the grounding, but the branches are extending out. And tradition allows us to do that. Nostalgia puts a chain around our neck and won't allow us to go away from the past. Yeah. Which is bad. That's bad too.
Nostalgia is like Tim said, pick a day. It's going to be living the exact same day every day. Okay. I mean, that's what that's harmful. That's bad.
It is. It's worshiping something that's never going to be here again. Where tradition roots us to things that always have been and always will be. Because that's what we do. We have to take those traditions and make them meaningful in our day and age. So yes, there was a day when churches were very different than what they are today, obviously. And over the last year and a half, they become different, where now you can do church in your living room, and I'm okay with that, but not thrilled with it. But at the same time, it's the tradition of devotion to Christ that made both of those meaningful. That's the tradition. That's what we're rooted to. We're not tied to pipe organs and stained glass as much as we love those things. I mean, and they are important. But it's the rooting in the tradition that helps us stay where we are.
I mean, so we've been talking a lot about how church and Sunday mornings and everything like that. And there's a lot of tradition behind that itself. Sure. Like, look at from all of history, mankind has taken a break day. Like God took a break day, seventh day. Yeah. And even now, we still are. I mean, and we can disagree on that a little bit now in the kind of current state that we live in. But we still are called to take the break day. Which is Sunday, or for some it's another day or something. Yeah. But it's a matter of getting that one day in your 7 days a week where you don't like maybe you kind of relax on the workload, you kind of take it easy. There's something important behind that. Yeah. If we never took that break day, we would all be mentally insane. But
that could go the other way too. Taking a break day, which is vitally important, also implies you're actually doing something the other 6 days. Yeah. So there's two ends of that tradition. It's a tradition of hard work and pouring yourself into something that's meaningful, but it's also about stepping away from that and allowing yourself a chance to recover. Those traditions go both ways, and that's very important. It informs us as to where we're going.
It's a tradition, and it's also a command. But I mean,
that too. Yeah,
but the same. But I mean, that's an example, kind of.
Yeah, and it helps us to remember that when we're rooted to these teachings and we're rooted to those experiences, not tied to them, it allows us to grow and allows that to be what the foundation is underneath us to move us into the future, rather than an anchor that won't allow us to escape the past. So. Yeah, so tradition is important. I think we throw it away probably a little quicker than we should. And some traditions that we keep, we probably ought to continually evaluate them to make sure they're still serving their purpose, or maybe they need to be refined, but not necessarily tossed out. And I think that happens far too often, far too quickly.
Yeah.
So as we're moving into a very traditional time of the year, and we all love it, and we hope you love it too, we appreciate the opportunity that we have to have had a generation prior to ours provide those experiences for us that roots us to that tradition. And now we are paying it forward to the next generation and providing for them those kind of experiences that they will be rooted in going forward. And we need to take that responsibility very seriously.
That is something to take seriously. I mean, we were blessed to have the generation before us, the generation that is the adults now that we have, they took the call to see certain traditions continue, and every generation has that same call.
And those folks are the only reason we still have them today. We would not have them at all. We read about them as history today instead of meaningful.
And that's going back to All Saints Day, which
All Saints Day, man, look at that full circle.
Yeah.
Rocking this out today.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where we'll close.
Yeah.
We want to say thank you to all those who have gone on before us, whether they are still with us or if they've been promoted to glory. And we're glad for what they have poured into us. In fact, speaking of that, just yesterday my dad called me and told me that my old Sunday school teacher died. And she gave me a rug when I was just a little guy. I mean, I was little. It's a stop sign rug. And to this day, that rug is in my bedroom. It's probably 40 years old. And so talking about how those things go, she was such a meaningful part of my development and instilled a lot of traditions in me. She also drove my school bus and took me to school. So, and those things are meaningful to us because they enable us to be who we are today. It's that tradition that allows us to grow. And we need to take seriously our role in instilling that in the next generation. So, all right. Anything more about tradition, Parker?
I guess question why the wheel is there before you throw it out.
Yeah. Yep. And if you don't know why the wheel is there, you might want to keep it. All right, everybody. Yeah, y'all have a great week.